moms and dads, not all punishment produces wisdom. Some of it, unfortunately, produces fear, shame, and even emotional distance. You will see at the end of the video if you are using any of these. Number one is?
Yelling.
Yes.
I think yelling is the one. I don't necessarily use it myself. I have other problems we'll see later.
I could.
But by yelling is actually one that kind of scares the kids and produce obedience.
I mean, just obedience in an instant. It doesn't produce obedience long term because they're scared. It shows them that the loudest wins. And it's just like through loud emotions, we get them to submit.
And very often what happens is like when you give I want to say an order, but when you give, you don't say
instruction.
An instruction. This is my English. An instruction in a normal tone, they learn to not listen to that one. And they're expecting only when you go up with your tone to listen. So you see this in families, it's kind of a vicious circle. Because it doesn't produce the intention of obedience. It's just when there's too much pressure.
Yeah, and it doesn't like have a harvest of plentiful later on because you might win in the moment because your child is scared, or you have a rebellious child, then you won't because they will push your button until you scream even more and your head gets red. So I know, like after working with moms for over 20 years, that this is one that we struggle with a lot. The quiet moms, the more emotional moms, but also the dads. There's a lot of dads that have anger issues when like the kid may not like be respectful or that's what I've heard a lot, like the dad wants to do something and the kid like goes against him and he can't finish maybe his football or
his TV.
Whatever it is, or his whatever work that he has to do at home, we can explode very easily. So this is something that we have to submit to the Holy Spirit and learn, because this doesn't help in teaching our children obedience.
Number two, the silent treatment. This is something we speak publicly, so I can say it. Shamara used to do this to me. And I really didn't like it. But the danger is you can also do this with your children, and especially with the teenagers.
Yeah. I think I didn't do it with our kids. I don't know why, but like maybe I've learned that with you that it doesn't help at all. But it teaches your children that you withdraw, like they did something wrong, you start to ignore them, and they learn that as soon as they do something wrong, they're not worthy of love anymore. And that's very bad because you need to separate disobedience and love. Love stays unconditionally always, even if they're disobedient, but the silent treatment unfortunately shows that you've lost my love. So you might struggle with that, and that's another thing. You need to submit to God. I needed to submit it to God with Hugues. I mean, I was wrestling for many years and finally found that like I really need to receive from God this unconditional love, because silent treatment doesn't get us anywhere.
Number three, ignoring the emotion of your children. Don't cry. It's nothing. Get over it.
It's not that bad.
Don't be don't be this and that. You hear this very often, and like especially when it comes from the father. I've heard very difficult stories from adults students that said some of those words have been really planted in their heart, and they had like difficulties in life with their own identity
or their emotions, because they've never learned how to cry. Or to like go through difficult emotions because they were never allowed to have them, because parents just shut it down right away because we don't really learn them to regulate. And that's one that we've learned a little bit later in parenting also, for kids to teach them that there's this different emotion like sadness, anger, frustration, fear, and really to be able, I mean, there's many more, but to be able to pinpoint them, but also to go past them. I think that's what a lot of parents are fearful of the process. That's why we shut it down very easily or quickly, because we're like, oh no, we have no time for this, just get over it, it's not that bad. And from an adult perspective, it's not bad, but for our kids it is. So ask yourself, are you aware of the emotions of your children, or do you try to shut it down?
I'm here to hear you. I'm here to understand what happened. So that's okay, because we want to know what's happening, but then we're not staying in this vicious circle.
That's important, to guide them out. But that's also like a lifelong journey. It's not done in every circumstance that it comes up. Maybe they'll just be sad the whole evening, and that's okay too. I think sometimes we as parents need to be resilient to be able to deal with these emotions of our kids.
And society played a very bad role. Very often by men, you're not allowed to. It's not necessarily coming from your own culture, parenting or family culture, but just men don't cry. You hear these. Men don't, we know those sentences.
Especially with the uprising of the toxic masculinity, it even was shown or amplified more. But like in your own family, understand the emotion of every child, because they're going to be very different. Some are more emotional, some are less emotional. But don't put labels on them. You're just like dramatic, or you're always sad, or you're just like, you explode very easily. We do this very quickly just for us to explain it, but it's a label of our kids that we need to rip off. Ask them for forgiveness too if we've done so, and like start to speak life over them.
Number 4, threatening. I told you I also have some problems. This is the one I would
We have a lot of problems. We don't just have some.
Especially under pressure, I realize with our young children, even today, this is something I could go easily. If you don't do that, we're gonna get out of the train. If you don't do this, I will stop on the, in ways that are sometimes not even possible.
Extreme
but
ways.
Kind of extreme. But you threaten. I wouldn't, and with very often with no consequences.
Because it's impossible.
Because it's impossible.
So that's another way that punishment doesn't work at all. It doesn't create this heart of obedience that is soft, that wants to obey, because they learn like, I don't have to do it because it's anyways not going to be possible. My dad or my mom is maybe just going to get a redhead, but after 5 minutes, they're going to calm down.
Yeah, because very often they are not natural, they are not consequence, they are in connection with what happened. So we for example, we say, clean your room, and if you don't, we will sell all your toys.
No, not sell. Throw one on the street.
Or whatever. But you're never going to do this.
No. Because we bought the toys too. So, selling is going to take a long time. If you put them on selling platforms, like every Lego.
If you don't behave, you won't have a Christmas present. Some extreme parents, I guess, they would withdraw from the Christmas present. But like a normal people, we say stuff like this, or we won't celebrate your birthday. Those are actually very sad.
And very harsh.
Very harsh to say. But this is the danger sometimes that we go when we start doing this.
And as well, again, it just communicates to the child that love is conditional, especially if we speak about birthdays or Christmas. That like, you've disappointed me, and that's why I'm withdrawing this. And this is another point, like using disappointment in punishment, of making your child responsible for your emotions. I hear that a lot, that like parents that get so aggravated because their kids are not listening or so disobedient. They're like, see, you made me this angry and it's your fault, or I'm this sad because of you, or I'm frustrated because of you, or like everything fell on the floor because you made me so angry. And that's another that is just like, we should never connect together. Because I know there's a debate that kids should also understand that we have emotions too, but we are adults and we should be like over our kids. They're still learning their emotion. We are still also, like, to be honest, our like buttons are still push, but we can't come on the same level like them and making them responsible for like how we react.
And this is a killer that can handicap you all your life.
Yeah.
Like in my story, for example, with my parents, in a way, my father kind of used us to calm my mom down. So basically something happened, maybe we did it ourselves, we're like disobedience, then she would go up in a room, and to help her to get out of a room, our father was kind of just putting the blame on us. But it wasn't like putting the blame, but basically saying, you should go and tell your mom something. So Belik was under pressure, and I realized later I was really doing things not of like a nice heart or like a compassionate heart. Yeah. I was doing this only so the trouble will go away.
Or to fix the problem.
To fix the problem or please my dad.
Yeah. So we can use that as seen in your story in a very subtle way. Yeah. We're not even aware of it, but maybe as a parent, as a mom or a dad, you're absolutely overwhelmed with your own emotions or the emotions of your spouse. Yeah. And then you make your child or your children responsible that they have to fix it, where they are not the ones that carry that job to do so. Yeah. Because it's just like way too heavy for them. For sure, we teach our children to ask for forgiveness, to reconcile, and all of that is important, but not pressuring them into something. And again, it's just a quick fix. Yeah. It's not like reaching their hearts, explaining and re-explaining or teach them during a moment of non-conflict to bring it up again, because usually it's only like all of these are usually only in conflict to get a quick outcome that is everything okay.
It's again. The now. And when you say this, for me, would have been better, for example, if my dad would have said, you go in your room and I just wanted to think about it. And that you don't have to give me an answer now necessarily, but something that you really start to, it grows in you, and not because you have to fix it in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. And I think sometimes, I'm pretty sure my dad didn't do this on purpose, but there's this pressure that was on the moment, and there's also this expectation, how we see it as kids. And I think it looked a lot worse than maybe it was, but for sure this is important to know, because how the children see things, it's not necessarily how we intend to do it, but they see it very differently. We very often say they see things black and white and not really gray like us, Like,
which we need to be aware of that in like teaching our children. That's why showing them in non-conflict, we just like the next day to bring it up again, not in like putting them down, but just in elevating what could we do in this situation. Do you have any other ideas? And I think in all, it's with this idea that parenting is long-term, it's a marathon, and it's not a sprint, and it's not going to be done today or in the next 5 minutes. Because if parenting is this, then we'll lose. We'll lose right away. We lose our kids' heart. We lose like obedience from the heart. Our kids will distance themselves from us. Our kids will like be fearful of us or feel ashamed, which we don't want. So be aware of all of these points. I'm sure all of you can like put up their hand for one or more than one of them, like we can. And we're working on it still on some things. We're never like fully there. And there's many more, like bribing or comparing your children and on we could go, that doesn't produce like lasting fruit in their heart, like really this love for obedience as we should have with God, or as we're teaching at home for them to be able to get into a relationship with God where obedience comes out of the heart.
Exactly, moving basically from something I have to do to a relationship. I'm not doing this as a duty, but I obey because I love him and have a relationship. And sometimes, this is what we figured out the last couple of years, you obey God very often actually without even knowing why you should obey. But this is also part of the Christian walk.
Yeah, and that's why we encourage you to teach your toddler already obedience, because they won't understand it. But even your preschooler, sometimes even your teenager doesn't really understand why you put limits, and that shouldn't hold you back from teaching them obedience, because they don't understand. Because even us in our walk with God, a lot of times, I would say like for us, a lot of times we didn't understand in the moment, but we obeyed because we trust our good Father to know the plans of our lives better than we.
And our children won't be thankful for a long time, but one day they will be. And we see this in our own lives, things that we didn't like from our parents. Later we realize, okay, this was good for the time, for me.
Yeah. So we want to really encourage you to not use these punishment tools, but to grow in maturity. If you've seen that anything of these have touched you deeper, go in it with the Holy Spirit. Ask Him to show you ways to eliminate that. Sometimes it means to have more margin in your day, to not like fill your day that you're so frustrated and exhausted. That's a big one. Or
ask for your husband to listen to how you talk. This one works very well with us.
Or as single parents.
Ask your friend.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have blind spots.
Yeah.
No,
sometimes we always have blind spots. I
always put the bar a bit down.
No.
The blind spots, asking someone else. Like if you're married, your spouse, but if not, ask your friend. It's actually very good to see that, to realize that you have those blind spots, especially in something like this. I didn't realize sometimes the way I speak until she tells it to me. Yeah.
And then just have humility to receive it and go in your quiet place with God for Him to really take you on a journey and like rip it out, because or else like really your voice and it's going to become the inner voice of your adult child and they will live the way you've used or misused punishment for their own life.
To realize sometimes it's to think about your own childhood. So either you reproduce what you receive, or you go exactly the opposite side. And this sometimes helps to realize, okay, where am I stuck? What did I take from my childhood into my own parenting journey?
We all do, and I think it's time well spent to just take a couple of hours, maybe an evening once, to really lay before God and let Him reveal everything and really receive it with a humble heart, because we know God only reveals for our best and for our kids and the generations to come. It's just like too powerful to rush through this parenting season without taking a break. So this was exciting. It's like we wanted to share a little bit like from our part too. We're not perfect at all, by no means. We're still working on a lot of things. And we want to encourage you that with God's help, you will be able to really work in humility and transparency with your kids and ask for forgiveness, because that's very important. But we're looking forward to next week. Until then, bye.